Welcome to week 41 of Cougs on Cougs. This is Jess. I'm Mary. We're here after a loss. Jess was in Boise. How was it?
It was actually great. I can't imagine what it was like watching that game on TV because it was so crazy.
It was crazy.
But, yeah, in the stadium, it was great.
Loud.
Fans were really positive. I will say, the friends I know that are Boise State fans, they were nervous as heck.
Good.
They were stressed about that game. And
I don't think Boise can brag too much about that win. Our quote of the week comes in light of some frustrated fans. But this is from Thumper, our friend who's in Bambi. And he says that if you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all.
Especially on Twitter.
Especially on Twitter. These are players who are on Twitter themselves, and their families are on Twitter. And my general rule of thumb is always assume they're being harder on themselves than you're being hard on them.
Right.
So.
And they know what they need to fix.
Exactly.
It's not like they don't realize it.
Exactly.
Be nice on Twitter.
Hashtag be nice on Twitter. Now we will revisit the Boise game and bring on Jess's brother and his roommate. They were all three there. And then
Basketball.
Basketball.
Preview. Oh my gosh, basketball starts this week.
Yes, and we're very excited. So we have Ken O'Kelly on to talk about that.
We are ready for coaching from the couch, talking about the Boise State loss last week. But we have Coach Blanchard here, and then Coach Schroth. This is my brother, Cam.
Hey.
And Coach Blomquist.
Welcome.
Alec. Welcome. You can follow them on Twitter. Cam is at Tiki Ashro. We'll put his handle up. And then Alex is ABlomQ1. So give him a follow. And the three of us were at that game. So let's get into what we thought went wrong for that game or what we think needs to improve. I'll start. For me, it was penalties. So at the game, it was so hard to get into a momentum and get into a rhythm, particularly on offense, because there were several times where we had a long run or a pass or something, and there was a holding call or a chop block or something that just drove us back. Yeah, and so that's just stuff you got to clean up, and it just kills drives like that, especially in a place like BSU where you've got a hostile crowd and all of that, and it's hard to get going anyway.
Coach Schroth.
All right. From what I saw, or from the last couple weeks, Tanner Baldery and some of the other tight ends have stepped up in little ways. Obviously, in the 2 overtime game against Mississippi State, Tanner Baldery had that touchdown to win the game. This is something that the offense needs to use more of. I feel that if they use some more of the tight end short passes or running back passes while Taysom's scrambling in the pocket, it can open up the pass game a lot more.
Like you said, we use them in little ways, but the little ways have been huge.
Yeah.
So slant routes all day.
It just gives another option. Yeah, it just gives another option for Taysom instead of trying to run it every time he loses his.
Yeah, and throwing
pocket.
in a screen there might help alleviate some of the pressure as well.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, Coach Blomquist, what was your thing that went wrong?
So I thought something we could really improve on was the pass blocking, especially. We gave up 4 sacks, which isn't a huge number, but it seemed like Taysom was running away from pass rushers all game long.
Yeah,
he didn't really have much time, and when he did, that's when we really had that one big catch right there at the goal line. And so I feel like the pass blocking was subpar and something we really need to improve on.
Mine, I can't believe we haven't mentioned this yet, but play calling. First, the 4th and 19, the fake punt, which we don't really need to address because if you've been watching SportsCenter all week or even Monday Night Football, they were talking about how terrible that
number 3 on Not Top 10.
Yeah, well deserved. I'm surprised it wasn't number 1. But the one that bothers me more, and I know people are divided on this one, is the decision to kick the field goal with 15 seconds left. It was funny because I was watching football on Sunday, and in the Steelers-Patriots game, the Steelers were in that exact same situation. It wasn't the end of the game, and they were driving, and they were trying to decide if they were going to kick a field goal or not, and they ran one more play, and they ended up with 11 seconds left still. Obviously, it's going to be different in every game, and obviously that's the NFL, not college, but that made me more mad. I was like, we could have run at least one more play.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to Jess earlier in the game, we burned a timeout earlier in the second half.
We
did.
I
said specifically to Jess, I was like, man, I hope this doesn't come back to haunt us. And it did.
One of my favorite tweets of the week came from Stuart Mandel, who is for Fox Sports 1, and he said that he thinks that BYU is better than 4-4, but sometimes it looks like our coach is using darts to make play calls, which I can't disagree with.
That's true.
You're left wondering sometimes.
Yeah, let's talk about what went right real quick. Coach Schroth, let's start with you.
Well, one thing that I saw a lot was a lot better tackling, a lot more wrapping up and not giving up on plays. Earlier in the season, players like Michael Davis and some of the other corners just like to hit guys and don't really wrap up, and there'd be a lot of missed tackles. But now, seems like starting with Butch and Cy, they're killing it, wrapping up. Fred Warner never misses a tackle. And that's what happened that's why Spurbeck fumbled the ball, because 4 guys were in on the play. That's why McNichols fumbled the ball, because he ran for 30 yards, but they don't give up on the play. It's a fumble.
Coach Blanchard.
Mine also comes on defense in our secondary. Our secondary is far from perfect, don't get me wrong, but we had a lot more consistency at cornerback against Boise than we've seen the rest of the season. Troy Warner was dealing with injuries, and they've been rotating in at quarterback on both sides. We've seen McChesney, we've seen Lake, we've seen Davis, we've seen Warner, we've seen Wilcox. We've seen just about everyone we have on the roster. But against Boise, we mostly just saw Troy and Dion Lake, and they played mostly the whole game. So I feel like, yeah, it wasn't perfect, but if they get that confidence and if they know that starting spot is theirs, that we'll see better production.
Coach Blomquist.
Awesome. Well, what I really liked about the game was the turnovers. Obviously, we forced a ton, and we're second in the nation with turnovers at 21. First in the nation, actually, is Utah at 22. So the Beehive State leading the way in turnovers in the nation. But we're led with Kaya Nakua. Obviously, he leads the nation with five interceptions.
And he didn't even have one against Boise.
I know. Yeah. That's the crazy thing. And honestly, our defense was our best offense in that game since we scored 2 touchdowns off of it. But also, on offense, we didn't turn the ball over. And so we're third in the nation in turnover margin at plus 11 on the season, which is amazing, you know.
So for me, I will say, going into that game, I wasn't entirely expecting to win.
No.
I try to manage expectations. That's key to happiness, right?
Sure.
So, yeah, and then very beginning of the play, Alec actually leans over and goes, "Hey, where's Jamal?" You know, because we didn't see him out there with the captains. And so maybe that's like panic mode, right? Like, where the heck is Jamal? But we thought, you know, who knows, he'll come in. But no, we find out he's not playing at all the whole game. So to go against...
unpleasant surprise.
Yeah, a top 15 team like Boise State on the road and not have your best player.
The Jamal fence.
One of the best running backs in the nation.
Exactly. And still be in the game, I thought was pretty good.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And partially that was due to Squally, because he came in first start in a game, and he came in, ran for 88 yards.
He took just about every rep, too. I mean, you saw a couple other guys, but Squally carried
so
the
it was
load.
Respectable, and he held on to the ball. He didn't turn anything over.
No.
So I thought that was good to get him that experience. You know, we kind of saw a glimpse of hopefully what we'll see in the future.
It's interesting because... it was probably awesome for him because he originally committed to Boise State before going to Washington State.
That.
So that's got to be pretty awesome for him to go back and play
Run all over
team
him.
he was originally going to play for.
Yeah, I'm sure a win would have been even better, but
Anyway,
next year.
Next year.
It's always next year.
Next year. Thank you for joining us, Coaches Blomquist and Schroth. We'll be done with football for the week. Everyone enjoy the bye week. We now have with us Ken O'Kelly, KM. You will recognize him as our resident stats man. #hire Ken. He even has his own segment title.
Yeah.
You're kind of a big deal. So, but this time we're going to talk about basketball. It officially gets underway. Well, I mean, I don't know how official we're going to talk, but it gets underway with the Cougar Tipoff and our first of 2 exhibition games. And Ken, our friendly neighborhood stats man, has compiled a spreadsheet full of compelling information about all of the teams we're going to play. So, and Jess has up the season preview here, so we're just going to kind of talk about what we've got. I mean, it's a season people have been excited about for a really long time.
Our first game, so we were talking about Princeton.
Yeah.
They're predicted to win the Ivy League this year.
Which is kind of a big deal. Hello, Harvard goes to the tournament. consistently these
Yale
days.
was good.
And
Yale
they
win.
usually make it past the first round.
They do.
And Princeton only lost one player from last year who averaged 0.9 points a game. So they're bringing back their whole team. They're bringing in 2 3-star recruits. So that's going to be a really good game.
So don't count that as if anyone was, I'm not sure why anyone would count that as an automatic win, but that's going to be a dang good game and one that we could lose. But it is at the Marriott Center, right?
It is at the Marriott
So
Center.
that's good.
Part of the tip-off marathon, right?
Yes.
Our non-conference opponents, it's not the strongest non-conference schedule that we've ever had, but it's far from the weakest.
I think it's better than it looks, or better than you think it is.
And Ken has some stuff to back that up,
So we don't play a true road game, non-conference.
which is weird.
Which is weird, but we do play in a tournament down in Vegas that could get us a rematch with Valpo. Get
Bring it
some
on.
revenge for the NIT. The game against Utah State in Salt Lake. USC is technically a neutral game
But it's in
Very
LA.
close to-
in LA.
Basically.
Illinois is also a neutral game in Chicago, so kind
Quote
of a home
neutral.
game for them.
Yeah.
And we play 4 tournament teams from last year, all in non-conference, and 3 of them are back-to-back-to-back, USC, Weber, and Colorado.
Ken also took a look at all of our conference opponents, talking about winning the WCC, which, I mean, you could kind of consider it a toss-up. It's probably likely going to be a 3-horse race, the way it always is, because St. Mary's is returning almost everybody. Gonzaga is hardly returning anybody, but they're Gonzaga, and then we've got all of this talent. So Ken on his spreadsheet what did you do? You percentage...
How much production they lost.
How much
how many
production they
points,
lost, okay.
rebounds, or assists, depending on what their team's strength was.
And then their key returnees, or newcomers.
Top newcomer, top returner,
newcomer
and
and
top
top returner.
newcomer.
So why don't you tell us some of those ones that stand out from the conference?
So, like we were talking about, St. Mary's lost they didn't lose a single person off
Like
of their
literally
roster.
no one. And they were good last year.
They were
won
good.
a lot of games.
They won a lot of games.
So we get to face that guy who wears the headband and the goggles again
All the Australians.
twice. All the Australians.
Australians.
And they got 2 3-stars added onto that. So they're
They
going to
don't
be a
lose
good
anyone
team.
and they gain 2 good people.
Yeah.
Great. So literally no production loss for them. 0.
No, 0.
Okay, that's a key stat there.
But Gonzaga, on the other hand, lost 62.5 out of 79 points per game.
So funny. So St. Mary's lost none, Gonzaga lost all.
And, 30
I mean, Kyle Wilcher
rebounds
accounts for
out
half
of
of that.
Kyle Wilcher and Sabonis make up a large chunk of that.
I forgot about him. Dang it.
Like,
He's
their
gone.
Now
their
I'm
only
mad.
returner, pretty much, is Josh Perkins, who is a guard off the bench.
We say returner, but we're not factoring Chemik Kornowski in this,
Right.
are we?
No, because he didn't play last year, so I
But,
wasn't counting it.
trust us, he will be a factor.
He will be.
Who's their top do they have good newcomers?
They have
Obviously.
2 newcomers who are in an ESPN article for the top 10 newcomers to the WCC.
Great.
Two.
Two of the 10. And we had 1. They had Elijah Bryan on that list, too.
Woohoo! As he should be.
But they have a player named Nigel Williams-Goss coming
yeah.
in. And he's supposedly just going to step right in and take off where Wilcher left. Thankfully, the teams that we normally drop random games to, like Pepperdine or Pacific,
We do.
lost about a third of their production from last year.
Like Stacey Davis and
Stacey Davis is gone. Pacific lost Ray Bowles, who's a junior guard. Santa Clara is in a similar situation as St. Mary's. They only lost 1 player.
But
be a
who
little more
lost the most
competitive.
production other than Gonzaga?
Other than Gonzaga, Pepperdine lost the most.
Okay. As for our team, what
Yeah, our
are
team.
some notable things from our season preview that is on BYU Cougars?
A whole lot of freshmen and sophomores. That's the first thing you see when you look at this roster.
Young team.
Freshman, sophomore, senior, sophomore, freshman. senior, freshman, junior, freshman, sophomore, junior, junior.
2 seniors, Kyle Davis, LJ Rose, right? So 1 that's been in the program.
4 sophomores,
and
and the
that
rest
hasn't.
are all freshmen.
That's crazy. It's a very young team.
Super young.
Oh, and we wanted to mention, Jess and I found out about 3 walk-ons that we didn't know existed until BYU booms. Their names are Evan Troy, Austin Clyde, and Hunter Kent. Are they even on the roster on BYUCougars.com yet?
Mm-mm.
So we had no idea about them. The first we saw was they divided the team up into 3 teams for Boom Shakalaka, and they put all 3 walk-ons on one team. It's Evan Troy, Austin Clyde, and Hunter Kent. So we'll see what kind of playing time they get. Personally, the player I'm most excited about, though, is Elisha Bryant. I hope to see him run the point. I think that he's going to bring a lot of invaluable experience. He's one of the oldest guys on the team. He'll be fired up coming off of his injury. I think he's going to bring a lot to the guard table. I think he's going to run it differently than some of the guards we've seen in the recent past, and I think that he's going to be really talented. Really fun to watch.
He was such a tease in that Cougar Tipoff last year.
I know.
He was so good. For me, it's Eric Mika by a mile. I love him, so I'm so happy he's back, and we will need his presence, both on and off the court. I mean, I think he's one of the guys, kind of like Jamal, where he can keep things light and fun, but he can also be very serious and competitive on the floor.
Yeah, we kind of had talked about team chemistry, too, and that's not something we're worried about. It seems like all these guys have really a lot of fun together. Ken, who are you excited about?
I'm going to go with Eric Mika as well. His attitude, hopefully he brings back his attitude that he had his freshman year.
The feisty one?
The feisty one. I think one of my favorite BYU sports moments was him giving St. Mary's the choking sign to the student section.
The one that's used frequently as a meme on the internet now?
Yes.
That's the one.
I hope omission didn't soften him too much. Maybe smarter so he doesn't get as many fouls, but I want to see that fire.
I do want to mention that ESPN, I've seen it a couple other places, have Nick Emery is projected to be one of the nation's leading
we haven't talked about him very
scorers.
much.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see if he lives up to that. I mean, I think you've got a lot of guys back that can really score. It'll be a lot more balanced than it was last year. I mean, and hopefully Nick is steadied out, because remember last year he had games where he'd go off for 30 or more, and then he'd have some where he was barely doing much of anything. So that'll balance, but then you also have TJ Haws, who's projected to be one of the freshman leading scorers in the country. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays off and how the point distribution goes between our good post players and then our talented guards.
But we hope to see a lot of points. Ken, thank you. Thank you to all 3 of our guests for joining us. We are so excited for basketball. Let's get into talk of the town. What do we got?
Starting first, during the BSU game, one of the alumni flag bearers was Parker Mangum, and the player that ran out the American flag was, of course, Tanner Mangum. So it was cool to see them run out onto that blue field
together.
They both played games there.
They're from Boise, yeah.
Yeah, they're from Boise, and so, yeah, it was a cool moment. They, hugged at midfield. It was really cute, so... Yes, and then another great thing that came out of that.
Yes, absolutely. There's been a lack of Tanner Mangum Modeling Co. pictures lately. But this one it's from BYU Photo. But Kimberly Hayner tweeted it, and she said, "A true American hero." And there's Tanner just bearing the flag. I had to quote tweet that and tag Cougs on Cougs in it, of course.
Squally Canada tweet out after the game, "I want to roll out of bed, but everything hurts. Now I know how Jamal be feeling." So I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, probably like he got hit by a train.
Yeah, which he pretty much did.
Yeah, well,
21 carries.
Good game experience for him. We haven't mentioned Fred Warner's pick 6 yet. One of 2 pick 6s that we had. That was just amazing. But it was Fred Warner's mom's birthday. So he said after the game that he dedicated that to her.
What was also cool about the game is you had Fred Warner force a fumble and Troy recover it.
Yeah, Warner brother action.
That was pretty great.
She's just got to be so stoked. What better birthday present could he ask for? Saturday game day was at Alabama, Tuscaloosa, and we had some people there with BYU signs. So here's a picture of them holding them up, but you probably saw them in the crowd if you had college game day turned on at all. So way to rep the Y to Jeffrey Fuller and Cameron Hunsaker.
Robbie McCombs reminded us this week that with Halloween coming up and the bye, that we will hopefully get a new Halloween costume picture from the team.
I had totally forgotten about this, but 2 years ago they did Sandlot, and then last year they did Remember the Titans, and they nailed it. Those are some quality costumes.
Yeah, they pulled it off. I think Mitch Matthews was sort of the instigator in that, and he's gone, so
maybe he could still orchestrate it. Boom Shakalaka was last week, so neither of us got to go, and it wasn't on TV. Sorry, we kind of lied to you. But the Marriott Center looked awesome. They put up that big, huge Sailor Coug flag, and it was all dark and spotlight on the court. So Marriott Center looking good as ever.
Sad news, Kyle Collinsworth got waived by the Mavericks. Bummer.
He lasted a long time.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and I know he tweeted and he said that he'll be back. So,
and he wasn't the only one got waived. It was like a big group. So,
yeah, I mean, you got to make
if that's any consolation. But.
As for what's next, we have two very exciting basketball things coming up this week. First of all, October 26th, so on Wednesday, tomorrow, we've got the Cougar Tipoff, which is the blue and white scrimmage, and that will be at 7. It's at the Marriott Center. It's free, and this one does stream live on BYUtv.org. We double-checked for you.
And then an actual game against a different team, exhibition game on Saturday against Seattle Pacific. That is at 7 o'clock at the Marriott Center. Should also be on BYU TV.
It is. We checked. It's on BYU TV. We promise. Don't get mad at us. As for our sponsors this week, our first one is multiple people. It's Daniel Sorensen, Fred Warner, and Dion Lake. We wanted to congratulate all the Cougars, former and present, on their pick sixes last week.
And Sponsor 2 is brought to you by Phi Slamma Jamma. And if you missed that 30 for 30 on Fly Slamma Jamma last week, you should check it out. Dave Rose had some good quotes in there. And it was cool to get to know the team that he played for, the coach that he played under, and how that correlates with how he runs his offense.
May you always stay loyal to the white and blue. For Jess, I'm Mary. We'll see you next week.